Alex.
So before the break, we started discussing a question. The scaffolding has collapsed in a busy town center. What are the reasons of that collapse actually? And to be very honest, sometimes we get help from the regulations, but several reasons are underlying kind of root causes, which we never realized. Maybe sometimes the scaffolding is well erected by the competent people, but only because of the end user, the careless behavior of end user, or the way they are using that platform is truly terrible and became a destructive reason of collapse, maybe sometime leaning or standing with the guardrails, and also several reasons because of we call it horseplay, like workers are at the platform and they are just behaving unsafely and creating a terrible collapse. Otherwise, how come it would be possible if a scaffolding is erected by the competent people and it looks like uh, great strength with the 90-degree angle, and on the other side the ground is fully leveled, capacity of the ground is perfect, the selection of sailboard or soulboard is as per international standards, even the base plate specs are good enough. That means overall material selection is brilliant. Yes, if it's a poor material, again probability of collapse will go up. But on the other side, if the ground is not leveled, or the sailboard or the soulboard are not leveled on the ground, or sometimes we misjudge the things, we thought maybe it is leveled all the way around, but maybe not from all points actually. What I mean is, if that foundation is not standardized 100%, then things could go wrong in a very unexpected ways actually. And several incidents happened, no doubt, because of overloading, that the scaffolding is not designed for a particular load, like maybe for 300 kg or 500 kg, but you are exceeding that load on the platform. And sometimes you ignore the weather conditions, especially the wind speed, especially above than 65 kilometer per hour. Sometimes erection is brilliantly done, but still gaps to be highlighted by the inspectors, like scaffolding inspector or scaffolding supervisor. Like below 6 meter, scaffolding supervisor have to inspect scaffolding, and above 6 meter is the responsibility of scaffolding inspector. So both parties, they didn't inspect properly, like some of the nuts were loose, or some of the parts were not good enough, but they accepted and they put green tag or yellow tag. That means yellow tag means full body harness still mandatory, but for green tag, the standard says no need of full body harness. But as a safety trainer, always we recommend, even if it's a green tag, no harm to use a full body harness actually, because no doubt the erection is done well done as per the standards, but no guarantee that you will not fall down, God forbid. So for your personal protection, no harm to use still full body harness or complete protection, fall protection system. Sometime the rain itself is making the surface, because we have different types of soils, especially in Saudi Arabia, and the least stable soil is the soil type C actually, where normally things could go out of control if we don't follow the right set of regulations related to geological point of view. So on the other side, sometime might be the outside bracings are not attached, like couldn't achieve the better rigidity or stability of that scaffolding. And sometime you can consider, the planks or the toe boards, they're not fitted properly, and that is why it's not only the person is going to be fell down, sometimes overall collapse of that scaffolding is also seen in the history, because once the center of gravity or the balance of scaffolding even for 5 degree leaned up, it's all over. So several reasons we can identify, but now let's see what Nibosh have guided. It's kind of a overloaded work platform, maybe sometimes the soft ground, scaffold not tied in, insufficient bracing, standards not upright, standards bent or damaged, high winds, incorrect couplers, especially, maybe sometimes loose couplers, scaffold struck by mobile plant and scaffold erected by incompetent workers, and scaffold not inspected prior to use, and sometimes poor inspection like tick, 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 that everything is okay. So what are the risks related to mobile tower scaffolding? We have a risk like fall from the work platform, objects falling, collapse of the structure, overturn, or even unintended movement of the wheels. We call them casters also, and contact with the live overhead, live cables actually. Now here, I really want to add one point here, which is not highlighted from the uh, Bosch theories actually. What should be the safest distance? Like if we are erecting a scaffolding and we have nearby electricity, and it's like 300 volts are there, what should be the minimum distance we need to keep from the uh, live cables or live electricity? What should be the distance from the electricity while we are erecting, the scaffolding? The distance between scaffolding and electric wires, while 300, below 300 volts, electricity is there. Anybody have any idea? The safe distance while the volts are only below 300 volts. Anybody want to share your experience or kind of knowledge? Yes, please. Any one of you, like you are one way around, you are erecting scaffolding, and now you have electricity or below 300 volts. So what is the safest distance, the minimum safest distance? I hope you got the point. But volts are below 300. The minimum safe distance. Yes, please. If you can remember, I can mention, maybe it would help while you are watching out your scaffoldings whenever they are erecting. So you just double check. If below 300 volts, make sure minimum 3 feet or 1 meter distance is there. If it is 300 volts, more than 1 meter is better choice, more better safety, but minimum requirement is 1 meter, like 3 feet. And if it is 300 up to 50,000 volts, then make sure minimum 3 meter or 10 feet distance is there. I repeat again, if it is below 300 volts, minimum distance should be 1 meter or 3 feet from the electricity, and then you can erect your scaffolding. That is minimum requirement. But if it is 300 volts up to 50,000 volts, like below 50,000 volts, make sure minimum 10 feet or 3 meter, and then you can erect your scaffolding. And again, that is minimum requirement. If you have more distance, that is your best choice, Marshall. Even the best practice all the way around to keep your employees safe. And if it is 50,000 to 250,000 volts, that means below 250,000 volts, starting from 50,000, then make sure the minimum distance you have to follow 25 feet or 7.6 meter. Okay. I repeat again, below 300 volts, minimum 1 meter. the distance between electricity and the scaffolding, and 300 to 50,000 volts, you make it 3 meter or 10 feet. And then along with that, if it is more than above 50,000 and up to 250,000 volts, then make sure minimum 25 feet or 7.6 to 7.5 meter. Then if even above than that volts are there, so 1 per 1000 volts, 4 inches. I repeat again, if it is still above than 250,000 volts, above than that, per 1 kV, like 1 kV is equal to 1000 volts. So per 1000 volts, 4 inches distance you need to increase. So per 3000 volts, 1 feet, you can increase, So this is kind of a criteria, especially for erecting your scaffolding near to live electricity. And even though these are the minimum standards, or you can have much better practice, that is up to your company, kind of rules and regulations. But the standard says this is what you minimum have to fulfill and follow the requirements. Now, again, another point I got in my mind: if you are erecting your scaffolding near excavation, like trenches are there, and let me define, maybe the depth of the trench is 20 feet deeper. You excavated an area, and that excavated area is 20 feet deep. How far you have to erect your scaffolding? I repeat again, there is a kind of excavated area in shape of trench, and depth is 20 feet. How far you have to erect your scaffolding? And don't expect that your scaffolding inspector, supervisor, or all scaffolders, they'll be familiar with all these safety requirements actually. That is why we are a service provider to them, and we are providing advisory services, giving them training and highlighting these are the safety regulations you have to follow actually. So nearby excavated area, from the edge of the excavated area, how far you can erect your scaffolding, while the depth is, let's take an example of 10 feet or even 20 feet. How far you will erect your scaffolding? Anybody have any idea, please? I'm just bringing something important, because scaffolding is a very deep subject, even though it required a separate detailed training, but still I'm trying to cover a few of the important points other than Nebo's theories. Yes, please. You are erecting your scaffolding near to an excavated area, and the excavation is deeper than 20 feet. How far you have to erect your scaffolding? Any one of you, please. Otherwise, you can, if it is possible, you can remember or note down 1.5 times comparing to the depth of the scaffolding. Like if a scaffolding, like erection, sorry, this excavation or trench is deeper than 20 feet, you will erect your scaffolding 30 feet away. So you are adding, that means 150%. So make sure, if it is like 10 feet, so 15 feet away. If it is 20 feet, 30 feet away. If it is like 40 feet, 60 feet away, you need to erect your scaffolding. And nearby, make sure no heavy equipment, because sometimes this is another reason of collapse of scaffolding. Nearby, the heavy equipments are moving around, and because of vibration, or maybe sometime the soil slip off and the overall collapse has happened. And sometime if it is near to the excavated area and you are not following safety rules, even probability will go up of collapse, of that scaffolding. I hope it will help, inshallah. So what other precautions are there? Make sure you have guardrails on the mobile tower scaffolding. Make sure it is not overloaded. Wheels have to be locked. and make sure it is on the firm or leveled ground. People material of mobile tower when moved, and avoid overheads. Outer riggers used. Sometimes they don't use, to be very honest, but it must be used actually. No climbing outside of the tower. And training you can take from COSMA. This is one of the kind of accreditation bodies. So tower not exceed the relevant base to height ratio, and the tower inspected prior to use and routinely during use. Now we are going to talk about mobile elevating work platforms. What are the risks? Again, the falls, object falling could happen, collapse. There is a chance, overturn, like toppling over or tipping over, contact with the live overhead, entrapment of the cradle, like platform against adjacent structure. So sharing against adjacent structures or unauthorized use. If even sometimes the person is not trained or irrelevant, unauthorized people are using it. So what are the safety precautions? Since hazards are there, risks are there, so what are the best safety precautions? Make sure it is on the stable ground, clearance of the obstructions and overhead. And look at the picture also. Barriers to exclude vehicles and people. So barricade is also important, so you can keep away the vehicles and the people. Guardrails not removed or modified. Harness and lanyard used subject to risk assessment also. Not driven with the cradle raised unless designed to do so. Not be overloaded. Correct use of outer rigger. Again, very rare I notice, they're using outer riggers, but mostly they try to be the hero, to be very honest, because they think it's just a 5-minute job. Just need to change the light. Inspected and maintained as items of lifting equipment, and trained authorized only. You can have training by IPF. Now, the leading edge protection. Unprotected edges are created and move as progresses. For example, fixing roof sheets to a steel frame building. Safety netting is the preferred protection. So fall protection basically is a very deep technical subject. So according to the nature of our project or job or process, we truly need to define, what are the best methods of fall protection to be applied, or other soft landing systems. So safety netting provides collective protection. So safety nets, but make sure are installed as close as possible beneath the roof surface, securely attached, and will withstand a person falling onto them, and installed and maintained by competent person. These are the best kind of precautions to protect leading edge. Now, inspection of excess equipment, make sure it is inspected surely, and when first erected, after substantial alteration or after incident affecting stability, such as periodically, typically every 7 days. But if you take an example of, you know, like few of the rules from Saudi Aramco, they clearly have give a lot of instructions, that the scaffolding must be inspected within 2 weeks, before every use, and make sure there is a tag like red, green, or yellow tag so people can easily identify. Even the tag must be quite visible, and make sure it is inspected by the inspector, scaffolding inspector below 6 meter, above 6 meter, or below 6 meter by the scaffolding supervisor. So plenty of other rules they mention, just to tackle and handle this particular process scaffolding in a better way. So without our like facing any sort of terrible collapse or accidents. Inspection of access equipment, what points have to be considered? Condition of the tube, like especially the standards, tying and bracing, condition of the work platform, edge protection like the toe board and the several other ground conditions, and safe access, safe working load, SWL. We also can have prevention of falling materials through safe stacking and storage. If housekeeping is not properly managed, it can hinder safe movement around the workplace. So housekeeping, sometimes I say, is the backbone of our safety system. Like you have ideally implemented several things, but ignored the important pillar, the housekeeping, then nothing would be perfect, on ground actually. So hinder safe movement around the workplace, and housekeeping is not like just removing dust from the surface. The housekeeping means the complete shop floor management, We apply sometimes the Kaizen management 5 as housekeeping techniques. I'm sure Sadara would have implemented, mashallah, all these tools like before and after, and making sure proper set in order, sortation, sweeping, standardization, and also safety is well considered. So block access to essential services, and stacks and piles can present danger of collapse and lead to the stack material toppling over. So sometimes the stacking should also be secured enough. It shouldn't be falling down and hitting to someone, or even the property damage could occur. Now, prevention of falling material through safe stacking and storage. Make sure there is a sufficient space needed for storage of material. A lot of incidents are happening, because the material was not stacked properly, and the moment forklift got involved, a smallest mistake and it's all over, you know while the fault was maybe from the forklift operator, because he couldn't observe either the stacking is well done and the material or the pallets what is going to de-stack, either they are lined up, it is okay for him to pull them down, or he just need to evaluate and make sure the stacking is well done, and then he de-stack any of the material actually. So it's not like maybe some sort of wrong stacking is there, but no incident. But the moment forklift is involved, and that poor stacking is ignored by the forklift operator, because he has to come down and see and observe which material he is going to de-stack. If he missed that particular safety rule, of course, the fall hazard and fall incident could be there, and it's a kind of a property damage. If that material fell on a person, God forbid, again, terrible fatalities several happened. You can see and have some research on history actually, how many incidents are happened just because of forklifts. Now, segregation of certain material and substances must be there, like clean and tidy areas routinely inspected, appropriate warning signs, and no work activities in storage area. We are talking about our daily workplace issues, So these are our day-to-day activities going on. When stacking, make sure each stack for one material only. Don't mix up. Set maximum stack height. Even if it is stacking on the rack, the capacity, the loading capacity of the rack should also be realized and designed according to your needs actually. Even though it's being done, but sometimes you overload the racks and they collapse, and they became a reason of terrible incident. Stacks should be vertical. Use pallets to keep materials off the ground and allow space between stacks for safe movement, and protect stacks from being struck by vehicles. So that was all about 8.2. So we discussed the main hazards when carrying out different kind of roof work, or even the hierarchy of control related to working a height, safety precautions for the ladder, and also some factors and causes of collapse and precautions, especially for independent tied or scaffolding.